When it comes to the larger cap cryptocurrencies, the dynamics aren't actually that complicated. Very often attention just moves from Bitcoin to Ethereum to Solana back to Bitcoin. It's all about the relative weighting within the portfolios. So we don't have to make it more complex than absolutely necessary. Crypto in the end is still driven by psychology and technical analysis. Even though many people say it doesn't work at all, it does analyze psychological developments. Because how else, for example, can we explain something like this? This is now Bitcoin, but we're going to talk about Solana in a second. This is the Bitcoin long-term chart, and we've got this curved line over here, right? Nothing magical about this, nothing mathematical about it, but still, isn't it fascinating how all of those cycle tops align extremely closely to that one single curved line? I do not think that this is a coincidence. Instead, what is probably going on is the effect of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So in case you've never heard about this, right? If enough people look at a certain pattern and enough people think that we might be very high in Bitcoin or in Solana, or we might be very low on a certain asset, if enough people believe it, it will become true. It will become a prophecy that self-fulfills. Because think about this. If everybody looks at the exact same chart and everybody draws the exact same lines, then everybody is going to sell when it's high, and the selling will cause the price to drop. If everybody thinks that a price is already historically very low, then the selling will stop, and some people might do some speculative buys, and the buying itself will push up the price. So just by looking at the same kinds of lines, we tend to see the price going exactly in the way it's anticipated. For example, recently, when Bitcoin hit the 112K mark, I talked about this level several times on this channel. And lo and behold, we did see some long-term holders suddenly moving their Bitcoin. Or have a look at this. Again, Bitcoin, a very long-term chart, and it seems to be magic, or maybe not, that all of those bottoms align so well. I would not be surprised whatsoever, in case we see a future bear market, that this will again be the line where a lot of people will buy yet again, which will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, why am I talking about all of this? It's because in Solana, we see now very similar effect. What is fascinating is that it does not necessarily need US dollar charts to have this kind of effect. We also see this in dominance charts. Now, dominance charts are simply measures of how much of all of crypto is currently in a cryptocurrency. So how big is the cryptocurrency within the overall space? And here's the example of Ethereum. I do not think that it's coincidence that the Ethereum price bottomed at the exact same level recently as it did in September of 2019. We had all of that bearishness, all of that bad momentum for years. And suddenly Ethereum rallies. And again, it happened here at the exact same bottom. So many people say that technical analysis doesn't work. And there are ways to obviously overdo this, right? If you use all kinds of random indicators that many people don't really look at, this self-fulfilling prophecy effect doesn't really help. But again, when enough people look at a certain pattern, it might in the end become reality. Now let's get to Solana. This is the Solana dominance. How much of all of crypto is currently in Solana? And again, I do not think it's a coincidence that all of those tops align so well. It's simply enough traders that think that Solana at those price points is comparatively expensive, and then people just take profit. So we've got this line over here. But then how about Solana relative to Ethereum? Why would we ever look at a chart like this? The reason is the altcoin market is mainly split between those two ecosystems. We've got the EVM ecosystem, right? Ethereum virtual machine, and we've got Solana. And sometimes there's a lot of speculation happening on Solana, sometimes on Ethereum, and it's going back and forth. We had massive underperformance of Solana relative to Ethereum when FTX blew up, because FTX supported the Solana ecosystem a lot. But then it recovered versus Ethereum because of the pump.fun ecosystem, because there was so much meme coin trading. And so now we've got the two major ecosystems competing against one another, trading in a range. And is it really a random coincidence that the price suddenly stabilizes at very similar levels to December of last year or to September of last year? I do not think that all of those price bounces are just coincidence. I do believe that Solana is rather cheap relative to Ethereum right now. And so yes, we can of course make our lives a bit more complicated. We can have a look at the on-chain data, we can have a look at the usage of Solana, etc. But I'm not sure if the usage today is actually indicative of what's going to happen tomorrow. Because the major price drivers in crypto right now is not the masses. It's not the number of transactions. It's not the number of active addresses even. Here is the total value locked, or the capital over time, for Solana. Solana, with the meme coin trading frenzy, was able to hit a new all-time high this year. It was able to surpass the peak of November 2021 DeFi summer. Ethereum, on the other hand, was not able to do that. It also recovered, but not nearly as much as Solana. And that explains the Solana relative to Ethereum outperformance at the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024. But then there's the counter argument. Does it really make sense to buy Solana now when the main price driver, so meme coin trading, tends to now slow down? Because what we see over here is the number of monthly transactions on the Solana chain. So you've got the transactions that are meme coin related from pump.fun in green, and you've got all other transactions here in black. If we remove the other transactions, we get to this chart over here. The pump.fun ecosystem is actually shrinking since beginning of the year. Meme coin trading on Solana tends to rather die down. And that's not necessarily a surprise because it's 100% a player versus player game. It's not just all luck, it's also skill or being more informed than the average investor. Thus, capital tends to concentrate over time towards a few wallets. As capital concentration progresses and as the majority of people lose their money against a few winners, the activity in the ecosystem also comes down when there's no new outsiders entering the system. So this will likely continue to shrink. But then why do I think that Solana will outperform versus Ethereum if meme coin trading continues to slow down? The answer is institutional adoption. Right now, most of Wall Street money goes into Bitcoin. There's also some money going into Ethereum. But there will be very soon, very likely, also a Solana ETF. And I think that ETF is still under the radar for most people. The on-chain activity for Bitcoin and for Ethereum and for Solana in general tends to trend down. But the prices, especially for Bitcoin and Ethereum, are trending upwards. And again, the reason for this is all the big money coming in. The big money is just allocating towards crypto. They just want to get a piece of the pie of the long-term growth. They don't speculate on chain that much, right? And if they do, they might do this with a few very large wallets. But in the end, it's really the trend of accumulation that's now driving everything. This is the Bitcoin supply that's held by the ETFs since their launch. So in the last 1.5 years, we have seen 3% of Bitcoin supply getting acquired by Wall Street. So that's 2% per year roughly. The same is now true for the Ethereum ETF. At the beginning, it wasn't really clear because Grayscale had a lot of sales due to the conversion from a trust to an ETF. But now we are close to all-time highs again, and so Ethereum is joining the ranks of being an accumulated asset as well. Really, the only thing that's driving the prices is the demand by the ETFs and by the treasury companies, by Wall Street in general, not anymore retail. In the last 1.5 years, all of those entities combined purchased more than 1 million BTC. So that's more than 5% of the supply. At the same time, the long-term holders are rather buying right now. So this is also good because long-term holders, when they are selling, they might kill a rally, at least temporarily. It happened when Bitcoin hit 72K. It also happened when Bitcoin hit 100K. But now the long-term holders are buying as well. And so I think it's very likely that, say, in a few months from now, Bitcoin's price will still be higher, but probably Solana will outperform Ethereum because once the Solana ETF gets announced and once first capital rushes into the asset, we will see a lot of adoption that will support the price. Now, I've talked about this several times on this channel. I don't just buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, but I also don't buy the small altcoins. Most altcoins tend to underperform Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana most of the time. Many people get burned with altcoins all the time. And so I've talked about this before. I will not dive into this in too much detail this time, but I'm simply betting on relative valuations of altcoins continuing to go down because of all the token inflation, right? The early investors, they sell their tokens, etc. That that depresses most altcoins long term, at least relative to the major cryptocurrencies, relative to Bitcoin, ETH and Solana. Now I'm making money with this pretty consistently. This is my return in the last 2 months, but I've made money with this approach for the last several years. And I was wondering, how can I actually make this work for as many people as possible? Because clearly this strategy does work. Most altcoins go down most of the time. This is the performance of the smaller altcoins in the last year. And so I was reading this book. You probably know him, Alex Hormozi, with $100 million offers. And what I got from this book is that it's probably best to make the offer in a way that, first of all, it's very low risk for everybody that tries it out, but also that success comes very, very quickly. And so I was thinking about this. How can I make the odds of winning so high that the majority of people that join have a winning trade from the get-go? And the answer to this is I'm simply sharing my favorite trade. Now I've talked about the balancer and balancer relative to Ethereum all the time, etc. But this is actually not my favorite trade anymore. Instead, it is this one over here. Now this is again a relative valuation bet. So we're not just buying an asset, we go long one thing, we go short another thing. But when we do both at the same time, we get this kind of return. And here's the reason why I like this trade so much. It has so little volatility, it goes up so constantly that the likelihood of losing here is extremely low. If you're holding this particular position for at least 7 days, you're very likely going to be in profit. And so here is my $100 million offer, or the offer that's so good that most people feel stupid not to accept it. Here's how it goes. You get into premium and you watch 2 videos. So that's in total roughly 1 hour of watch time. You then join Hyperliquid, which is a perpetual futures trading platform, the platform where I'm currently making my gains. Once you've watched the videos and you've joined the platform, you then get into the premium Telegram channels. So once you've joined those Telegram channels, I will get a notification and I will send you a personal video message. So in that video message, I will say your name, right? I will say, hello ABC, welcome to premium, etc. I will then share what to do in the platform in order to get exactly this performance here. If then, after 1 week of holding that position, you are not in profit, then I will refund you the entire membership fee, so the $125 US, and you can also keep the entire remainder of the month premium for free. So you can then binge watch all of those other videos as well. Now there are periods where this position did not make gains in a 7-day time frame, but the odds are definitely in our favor. And if you're willing to diversify with a few other positions as well, which by the way, I share in premium as well, right? I share every single trade that I do. Then the likelihood of winning is likely even higher. Just to summarize again, right? I'm not saying that you will join and you will instantly make money with whatever trade you're opening. The guarantee is only for this particular trade. If you open this trade after joining, after we've talked in Telegram, and you're not in profit with this particular trade, then you get the money back. So I hope this is a good offer. Feel free to check out premium. The link should be here at the bottom right. Just click on that. It will lead you directly to the website. If it's the very first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish this regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube or see you in premium. Cheers.